Today in this exercise, we'll also create again the EC2 instance. Okay, but what is the different here is we will be segregating the files. Okay, means we used to create main.tf every day. Okay, but today we'll segregate it. Okay, it is not mandatory, but it is a best practice to have the main logic in main.tf. Okay, variables in variable.tf and output in output.tf. But till now we haven't seen anything about the output, so that also we'll learn today. But let me check. Main.tf is there and the output.tf. Okay, fine. Yeah, we have variables as well. Okay, so we'll segregate the main.tf which we create every day into separate resources. Like for provider we'll have a separate terraform.tf. If we use variables, till now we haven't used variables, today we'll be using variables as well. Okay, so variables will keep in a separate file. Okay, then something related to the variables itself, this block. Okay, similarly the main logic will keep it in a separate file, and output.tf again we'll keep it in the separate file, and then we'll run the code. But I'll let you know the everything what does that mean in the code. So let's first check if the keys are there or not. So we'll just check the public and private key. These keys are always there in our .ssh. Okay, so the keys are there. If not, we can create using ssh keygen -trsa. Okay, and just keep on pressing enter. Don't use or use all the default option, and it will create this private and public key. So we already have the keys. We'll create a directory. I'll go to, okay, I'll remove the old ones. Go to EC2 resources. So, and we'll first create the files, the empty files, then we'll make the changes in that. Okay, so we are creating, we can have everything in the same file, but as per best practices we are keeping the main logic in main.tf. Whatever output we get, like we create a EC2 instance and we check its IP address, public IP address, by going into the console. Okay, in outputs.tf we'll write a logic so that after creating the VM we'll see the public IP on the screen itself. That is possible using outputs.tf. Then the provider.tf, the AWS is our provider, we'll write it in the separate file. Then we'll be using some variables. Okay, that variables will be written in variables.tf and terraform.tf, whereas both, what is the difference we'll come to know soon. So I've created all the empty files. Let's add something into it, whatever code we want. So first we will write in the provider.tf this lines. So I'll just write provider.tf. So our provider is AWS. Then we'll be using two variables. So instead of manually adding the region, the public key path and the key name, we'll be using variables for it. So what is the advantage of using variables? I can use this code again, okay, in some other project as well. Just we need to modify the variable names in this variables and tfvars file. So we'll see that in practice today. We have written variables.tf. Now we'll edit terraform .tfvars. So you all must be wondering why there are two variable files. Okay, so here we'll be defining variables. Okay, so we are just defining that we have AWS region variable. Okay, we have a public key path variable and the key name dot variable, but here we do not have their values. Okay, and the values we are adding it in terraform.tf here we'll define just the variables. Okay, and in terraform.tf we are adding its values. So why there are two separate files? Most of the times after type we'll be writing default, so there will be some default values. Okay, but in this case I haven't written any default values. So in case that we do not want that those default values, we can overwrite it on using this terraform tf so default values will not be taken into consideration. Whatever we write in the terraform.tf it will have the precedence. Okay, so here so to make it easy, what I will do we will do is we'll just define the variables here. We don't define default values here. Okay, but we can define default value in the same file, and the definition is in variables.tf and the actual values are in terraform.tf. Okay, so what we are saying that AWS region, it will be US East. What is the location of my public key file? This is the one. Okay, what should be the name of the key file? It should be my key pair. So here we are defining the variables and in this file the values. Now the main logic, main.tf. So we can convert everything in this file into variables, but we have done only the limited ones for demo. So in main.tf, so here what we are defining, a provider is already defined in the separate file. So here we are calling that variable. Okay, so we define that we'll be creating a AWS key pair. Okay, and the name of the key pair will be taken from the variables.tf, and that's as it is a variable we have to append var dot the variable name. Okay, and similarly for public key the variable is public key path. Okay, that's why we are adding variable before that, var dot. Then we'll be creating a security group. Here we are not adding any variable, but here also we can add variables, and in security group is nothing but kind of a firewall, or we are opening port 22 and 80. Okay, in this block. Then as we saw yesterday we are using a data source. Data source means getting something which is not part of the Terraform code. Okay, so we are getting the Ubuntu ID, that is AMI ID, using this block. Okay, and we are calling all those things here. So AMI ID, we are calling this data block here. So whatever the output it gives, we will it will be added here, data dot AWS AMI, that is AWS AMI dot Ubuntu, and we need the ID. That's why here we have ID. So here the AMI ID which was generated in the above step will be added here. Then instance type also we can have a variable, but we have hard coded it that it will be T2 micro. Similarly, the AW key name is calculated AWS keeper dot my keeper dot key name. So from here we are calculating AWS keeper dot my keeper, and it's the name of the key, so key name. So here we are adding at the key name. So here the key name which was generated here, that will be added in this block. Okay. Similarly, the security group IDs, it is also calculated from above. AWS security group dot my security group dot IDs. Actually, there is only one ID, that's why only ID. And why it is in bracket? Because we can add one more, we can have multiple security groups. The VM can be part of multiple security groups. So adding comma, we can add one more. That's why it is in bracket. And we are giving a tag to it that it will be a web server. Okay. So what we have done is we have created separate files. Okay, main logic is in main.tf, and this one is remaining. Then after running the, okay, we haven't copied it. After running the code, that is Terraform apply, we can see the output on the screen itself. Rather than going into the console and checking the public IP, we'll get here the instance ID and the public IP. Okay, so this is the syntax for output. What we want, we need the instance ID, and that is also calculated, okay, like this: AWS instance dot my instance ID. So if you see here, we are defined where it is, yeah, AWS instance dot my instance, okay, and we need a ID. That's why it's written AWS instance dot my instance dot ID. Okay, so it will say instance ID equal to this value. Similarly, for getting the public IP, it is also part of the EC2 instance. So AWS instance, my instance, and we need public IP. That's why public IP. And today we will also learn how to get the values after this dot, like ID, whether it is ID or IDs, whether it is public IP without underscore or with underscore. All these things we'll see today as well. So let's run this code, Terraform init. Yeah, before that, what I did is, if you go to this file .bash rc cat tilde slash bash rc. So this is the user's profile, you can say. Whatever we add in this file, it will be loaded when when we log in or when the shell is loaded. So here I have added my keys. Okay. So every time I don't have to add the export the keys before running this command, Terraform init. Terraform init, Terraform plan. Okay, so it is giving that it will be creating three resources. What are those three resources? First one is security group, okay, then the key pair, and last one is EC2 instance. Now just do Terraform apply and auto approve. What happens with auto approve? It will not ask us yes or no, it will directly approve it. So using this code, it will create an EC2 instance. Okay, it created the key pair, it created security group. Okay, now it's creating the AWS instance, and we can go and check in the console that instance is created or not. So it started creating it. Its instance state is in pending. So it's completed, and if you see, we even got the public IP address. So I don't need to go at all now to the console and check anything. I'll just do SSH. Ubuntu is the username. @ 3 dot. Okay, that's the IP address. So is it not still ready? Let's check that. Yeah, I think it's still getting ready. Let's wait for some time. what was our AMI ID? .tf. Get calculated. Yeah, it's ready now, and we can log in. Okay, we're logged in. Cat etc os release, and we can confirm it is Ubuntu 20.